now have with me Professor Anthony Killer. I also have with me Professor David Aworawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies, and Mr. Jide Ologun, legal practitioner, national development advocate, and fellow of the Institute of Fellowship and Coaching and Strategy. Now, gentlemen, it's good to have you guys here. Very good indeed. We have had some major issues. We started with Mr. Kabiru, Dr. Kabiru Adamu, about President Donald Trump saying Nigeria is now a country of particular concern and guns will come a-blazing in Nigeria to correct the persecution of Nigerians, of Christians in Nigeria. We had Mr. Tony Chijina, who spoke about the 15% increase in terms of tax on fuel imports, and also about the Dangote refinery, and also weighed in on the issue of religious persecution. And then we had Alhaji Umar Sani, a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party, who was commenting on the court of Justice James Omotosho, saying that the PDP cannot have their convention November 15 and 16 because there have been breaches of the constitution of the party and also the Electoral Act. These are the major issues on the table. I'll start with you because you are next to me to my left, Professor Anthony Killer.
Well, thank you very much, and good to be here. I think, let me start from the last thing you stopped with, the PDP issue, because democracy is made of two or three legs. There is government, there must be opposition, and there must be an enlightened public. It is a shame that the PDP is going through this trouble. It seems to me like those children who were rich or their parents were rich, then something happened to their family. Either one of them died or they lose their job and their fate has just turned to something else totally. They seem to be in a pitiful stage, and this court thing is not helping matter as well. I didn't expect that the day will come when I say I feel sorry for the PDP. I don't know if they should keep fighting or just give up, but to know that party is gone on. But it's a sad narrative for the country that a party cannot even hold a convention. And I do believe politicians need to find a way to settle their issues amongst themselves rather than going to court to solve it. A party that cannot even plan its ESCO and convention does not look good enough to rule the country, no matter what the reason are. Either because some people are manipulating them and sabotaging. It just shows that there is a leadership flaw that they need to work on. But I think, luck is not on their side as well. So they need to look at all this, and they need to work hard, and since we're Nigerians, pray as well. And with the prayer thing, that takes me to Trump and religion, the unhelpful help of Trump, or shall we say when help can hurt somebody. The issue of this intervention of Trump, of one, putting Nigeria on the CPC list, number two, talking of coming in with guns to solve the problem, is a kind of peculiar issue because there are facts and there are myths about it. There are some people in this country and outside the country who seem to thrive on anything that embarrasses the government of the day, whether it's for Nigeria or not. Let us say very clearly that those people exist, and I, Anthony Clare, I'm for those people. I think it's a very petty thing. I think it's a very blind way of dealing with issues, to say anything that embarrasses government gives me joy. That is not politics. That is not citizenry. That is something else. But to the issue, though, I believe that the best way to deal with what Trump is doing, it is not by emotion or slogan. It is calm wisdom and data-led responses that we should be giving to that issue. If Trump says that, or those around Trump as well, before him, that they believe that there is Christian genocide in Nigeria, some people need to go to the table and define what genocide is, and then prove if there is or not. I think the sad thing for us is that we have a security problem. the Nigerian narrative is that it is not just Christians that are being killed, it is anybody that's been killed. You know, it is farmers, herders clash, it is banditry, it is pure terrorism. When you look at it that way, it's not a good place to be, because what we're saying is that, oh no, we're all being killed, you know, as if that's a better place to be. That is not good. I think the government needs to step up to show that they are not abettors, they're not conspiring with those killing.
Okay.
I think that's a problem. But there's one point I need to make, and this is why I think Donald Trump is very wrong on this one. If there is one Nigerian president, I have criticized Bola Tinubu for a lot of things, but there's one Nigerian president in the past years that cannot be accused of any kind of collusion with religion to kill another. If there's a president that is actually liberal in terms of religion, neither so committed, nor fanatical, nor anti any religion, it is Bola Tinubu. So what that tells me is that logic should dictate that if Trump were truly interested in saving Christians, this is a president who should be working with on that, not decline the whole of Nigeria.
I got your
a state point.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Let me pick it from the point of Donald Trump. And in his first tenure, he actually listed Nigeria as a country of particular concern. And he has succeeded in doing that again. But I also want us to go on self-reflection. Are there facts on ground that point to the level of insecurity in Nigeria that should be disturbing? The answer is yes. Is the government trying to combat it? The answer is yes. Have we done enough? That I cannot answer. And what he is saying,
go ahead.
What he is saying is that he's not for the Islamist jihadists who are just wasting, according to him, Christian lives. But on the side of Nigerians, religion is not the major definition of the victimization. Insecurity is insecurity. Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended says that the security and the welfare of the citizens shall be the primary purpose of government. And on the side of governance also, some congressmen have come to Nigeria. I read a report where it was alleged that some intelligence warnings were given out before some attacks that could have been prevented. So by and large, it's for us to wake up. And I want to tie it to something. Whether it's the Christians that are being killed or Muslims, I'm not comfortable with it. Now, recently, a rumor came up about an alleged coup plan. And the government reacted in a way that restructured the security architecture in the country. Can we also enlarge the scope of that response and say now all lives are important in Nigeria? Whether we like it or not, it's part of the labeling. And I listened to the discussion around conspiracy theories of whether America is interested in the mineral resources in Nigeria or is not comfortable with the government of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Those are not the main issues for me now. Can we stop the bloodshed in Nigeria? Please, if it is possible, let's go ahead. And he is offering that. If we cannot, he can come in to help. Then the Dangote refinery versus introducing 15% tax on importation of fuel. I think that will help us develop local capacity and, reduce the pressure on foreign currency requirements in the business space. And if that is achieved, I was amazed when Mr. Tony mentioned the amount Africa spent in importing fuel into the continent. So if we can do that, why not? And we expect that at the end of the day, it will scale down the cost on the part of the citizens. And that's a welcome one. And it's one of the things I say, that the president has the prerogative of executive power in the country to intervene where necessary. And for PDP, the court is very clear. The court has examined all the presentations before it and came to a conclusion that what you are doing or planning to do is not in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, even with your own constitution as a party, that you needed to have organized state congresses before you even start talking of the National Convention, and go and put your house in order. And interestingly, some sections of the PDP party are happy with this, and there are some various suspensions now within the party structure. So I hope that PDP will be able to stabilize, but by and large, it is important that if there is a due process, that due process should be followed. Otherwise, the efforts may even jeopardize their interests stepping into the future. So I hope that what should be done will be done before the set time for the convention. But the court has spoken. Whether some are happy about it or not, it is expected that the rule of law be respected in this matter.
Okay. Your turn, Professor Aworawo. Crisis within the PDP, crisis within the oil and gas industry, crisis as to international relations, which is your field, and President Trump saying Nigeria will face American might. Does he have the right? So he will say that.
I will start from there. That Nigeria is now declared a CPC by Trump's government, and citing genocide against Christians in Nigeria. I want to align with the comment of our third guest, Sonny, the PDP chief. I think his name is Sonny. I want to align with him that, all lives, whether Christian, Muslim, whatever religion the person professes, that Trump should be interested in protection of all lives. I agree entirely with that submission. And of course, we all know that extensive violence has taken place in Nigeria in the past over a decade. Since about 2010, we have had escalation of violence across the country. I agree with him, but when I commented on this issue last week, I began by looking at peace building. I quoted Johan Gartung. His definition of peace building as the establishment of structure to achieve sustainable peace by addressing the root causes of conflict. If we go that direction, the charge that we need to address the Christian dimension will be right. People lump off all this, even Dr. Kabir, they lump everything together by saying both Muslims and Christians are being killed.
Yeah.
There are different people who are killing for different reasons. There are people who are just criminals, kidnapping, those who are mining, who want to mine mineral and all that. They are killing everybody. They are killing both Christians, everybody. Then we have herders who are attacking farmers. The herders are Muslims. They are also Muslim Fulani. And so that one takes economic dimension. It also takes dimension of an ethnic group or religious group versus sedentary Christians in Benue, Plateau, and the rest of them. Then we have religious extremists who are targeting Christians and killing them. We must admit all of this. That is how you explain why churches are attacked. You explain how priests are captured and killed. You explain how these people target Christmas Day or Easter and then attack church. This is very clear. And I've been speaking with my friends in Washington and the US in the past couple of days when this argument went on. And one thing is, look, you people can't win this argument as to whether Christians are not being targeted or not.
Exactly.
They even cite President Bola Tinubu's tweet of 29 January 2014 that Christians were being slaughtered and that the Jonathan government seemed incompetent to address it. They also cite those of, some other people who are now saying there is no Christians are not being attacked. Now, I'm saying all of this because for you to address the root cause of conflict, to address this matter, you have to admit the realities. Like in the East, for instance, there are individuals who are targeting policemen and government infrastructure. If you want to address that problem, you have to admit that exists. Now, having said that, what should the United States do And Dr. Badi asked the question, does US have the authority to come attack Nigeria because they say they want to protect Christians? No, it doesn't. But of course, we also know that in international relations, might is always right. If it comes to attack, there's nothing we can do about it. But that should not be the approach. My advice to the US government is this.
Okay.
The US government, first, the Nigerian government, we must admit that we have a security problem and that we need help. And that we are doing all we can, but whatever assistance we can get from anywhere will be welcome. The government needs to reach out to, both governments need to work together. We should not fight each other because there are criminals amongst us. We should cooperate to deal with the criminals.
Okay, Prof.
That is the way
I just
to go.
want you to revisit the point about 50% tax on fuel imports, which Mr. Tony Chijina spoke about. And I said, this is not about Dangote refinery. This is not about punishment. It's to encourage competition. Because I know you always talk about fuel price going up. And the university lecturers not being well paid. But President Tinubu has been very kind to you people. He has been very generous. Last week.
Very generous?
Very generous.
I can't see the generosity. We are at $350.
No, they are processing the payments. So at least be patriotic and defend the government.
I defend the indefensible. I stick to facts. Now, first, let me comment on the 15% tax. Yeah, government will make money from it if people choose to still continue to import, and of course, Nigerians will pay more. But ultimately, it will profit Dangote refinery because it's within. It's not going to be taxed.
No, but they can encourage competition within the local market.
Yes, that is what needs to happen. We've had many refineries, springing up. They should be encouraged so that we don't have a monopoly in the end. If the people can import again because of the fact that it won't be competitive for them to import with the 15% that they will pay, it means that the advantage now is with Dangote refinery. And with that advantage, if there is no competition, we could run into a problem where one company will hold the country to ransom. Encouraging other refineries to be operative, to be functional, so that there will be competition. That is the way to go. Importing, I've always said it, that how can Dangote be exporting to Angola, exporting to the US, going to Cameroon, exporting to South Africa, and Nigerians are going to import from Malta and all sorts of places. $1 trillion between January, February, and March. It doesn't make sense. So it's in order. If it will discourage people from importing, that is just fantastic.
Okay. Okay, Prof. I get your point. Let's take another subject. Following a public backlash over the inclusion of people convicted of serious crimes, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has reviewed the controversial list of 175 convicts earlier approved for presidential pardon. That list has now been reduced to about 120. He has signed new instruments of clemency, removing offenders convicted of kidnapping, drug trafficking, human trafficking, fraud, and unlawful possession of firearms. It has that others on the old list will now have their sentences commuted instead. Arise correspondent Godfrey Esemoge has the details.
The reviewed lists show that the number of beneficiaries drops from 175 to 120. Among the most notable names is that of Miriam Sanda, who was handed a death sentence for killing her husband in 2017. The government revoked the pardon earlier granted to her, changing it to 12 years in prison. 4 others had their death sentences commuted to life in prison, while 15 others were pardoned outright. The Tinubu administration's review of the presidential pardon lists means that convicts of serious crimes like kidnapping, drug trafficking, human trafficking, fraud, and illegal arms possession will no longer benefit from clemency. This may entail the government taking a tougher stance on insecurity. The decision also reflects President Tinubu's effort to distance his administration from perceptions of leniency towards corruption, insecurity, and organized crime. This balances the constitutional power of mercy with the need for accountability in serious offenses. The initial pardon list had sparked public outrage. But legal analysts say the review shows sensitivity to victims of crime and could help rebuild the trust in the justice system. By revisiting the list after public backlash, the Tinubu administration seems to have set a precedent that clemency decisions can be revisited in the interest of justice and security. Godfrey Eshamoge, Arise News.
Okay, Professor Aworawo, you just said it now. The president, the received opinion is that, the president was listening to public opinion. That people said, why will you pardon fraudsters, kidnappers, and all of that? And the president then decided to take another look at that list. He decided also to move the Secretariat of the Special Duties Ministry to the office of the Attorney General of the Federation and all of that. And the list was reduced from 175 to 120. Drug addicts, kidnappers, persons responsible for fraud were removed. The question is, why is this an afterthought? Why is this a damage control? Why is it that the committee, if that committee was good enough, why did they not see through all these concerns? Why is it that civil society is not involved in the consideration of the prerogative of mercy? So these are some of the questions. But are you satisfied that the president has now listened to the people? For a government that has been accused of sloppiness, shoddiness, whether it's about national honors list or it is prerogative of mercy, they will give one list, they will appoint dead people to positions, and they will come back later and say, we are sorry, this is not the right thing to do. What does that say to you?
Well, I would like to begin on a positive note that, as I've said several times, the capacity to listen and make amends is commendable. But that is the only positive in the whole thing. You ask yourself, how was that list arrived at? We have a Presidential Advisory Council on Prerogative of Mercy that's in charge of this. We also have Ministry of Social Duties working with the Attorney General and Minister of Justice. How did they prepare this list that no one saw that it was wrong to pardon people like Kevin, who kidnapped Mike Zekome, kidnapped Professor Hope Gaga, killed one deputy governor, killed so many people, and then it was on the list. And so many other kidnapped. How come they didn't see it? It has given the idea that, there's gross incompetence in the governing process. I mean, just as you mentioned, the honors list. How can Papa Fashoranti, who is a friend of even the president, they listed him as dead, as being honored posthumously? When Papa Fashoranti had a problem with the Afenifere leader, it was Fashoranti that intervened to support President Tinubu. How could they not have known that that man was alive? It's lamentable. That is just how to put it mildly. It is lamentable. This kind of thing should never happen again. I've said it before that if those who are working on the broad, special duties, this committee, the president should get like 3 people who will work with him to be reviewing these things to prevent this embarrassment. Because at the end of the day, it's the president who call. We don't call anybody else. Prerogative of mercy, we ask who are the people there. We don't. So, how it has happened, we hope that will not happen again. Even the current list as it is, there are still issues. See Mary and Sandra, for instance, murder, reduced now to 12 years. In the next few years, she will be out of prison. People are saying, like somebody just mentioned that there's a lady, her house is not even murder, but it's manslaughter in Suleja's prison. She has spent 25 years, and good conduct, everything. How can you possibly pardon Sarah Sandra and leave that kind of person? So there are still issues that have not been addressed, that need to be addressed. Moving forward, we should have something very comprehensive, like you said, civil society group being involved will help to sort out some. They are the ones that know. They go to prisons, they go to everywhere. They are the ones that know what is happening. They will be able to suggest things that will help us to avoid this kind of things. So, we can just take it and say, half a loaf is better than puff puff.
Mr. Ologun.
Thank you very much. And let me tell
I imagine that you like puff-puff.
No, in fact, I'm going to tell Prof. Aworawo that I'm not comfortable with half a loaf. I want full loaf. You see, it's a very disturbing development, but I commend the president for responding the way he did, because from the report, they had to reconcile the Council of States, listen to public opinion, to review. Other leaders would have said, I've taken this decision, take it or leave it. And again, I want to dig deep. There was a time some people started communicating with me, barrister, the president wants to appoint some people and things like that, bring 1.5 million. I said, I'm not interested. You see, when you hear of the presidency and some of those working with the president, for some of them it's business. Investigation may reveal that some would have paid money for some of the names that showed up on that list. We are the ones giving this assignment. Do you need help? And that also is an advice to the president. In public relations, the branding comes to you, the image comes to you, you are the leader making that decision. So you must be thorough about it. And there are those who will want to deliberately embarrass the president. But I must say that I'm particularly impressed that the response from the people it made the president to do what he has done now. And that is also crucial. Going forward, embark on what we call stakeholders engagement. It's just reported, and maybe sometimes to leaders, we have consulted, the civil society and those who are really interested, who can advise. And finally, let me talk about reward system. Within the confines of democracy, sometimes those who hold some sensitive offices are those rewarded for the contributions they have brought during elections, not necessarily about technocracy, which should ensure that what is done in the office are done on the scale of merit. And I hope that the president also will try and patronize those who are real professionals that can help, so that we don't have embarrassments like this before. There was a time some people were appointed who were already dead, and they showed up on the list. So where were they going to function?
Professor Killer.
Well, I think very briefly, most of the things have been said. I think two things. Number one is that it's a good thing that the president listens. It's a very bad thing that they've made, such terrible errors. But I think one thing the president can do for us, one is that listening is good. But one thing they can do for us to strengthen democracy is that anytime we have this kind of sloppy behavior or incredible error, there should be an inquiry to say, how did this happen? Not necessarily to punish the people. Logically, you want to punish them one way or the other. But I think just to use that inquiry to discover the missteps that were taken, so that next time you want to do it, you don't take those missteps. I think that is just, a favor we can do ourselves if we really want to strengthen democracy. And I also think, rather than waiting for stakeholders' engagement, I will advise civil societies that are involved in the criminal process, people who visit prisons, people who are aware of this issue, to be a step ahead of government, to already have their list and be sending it to government before government asks them, so that in a way, they are the one, building the narrative and deciding what happens in the country. That is the essence of specialism in democracy. That is the essence of being experts and committed to a sector.
Okay, let's go to Cameroon. Cameroon's long-standing president, Paul Biya, was this week officially, or you say last week, officially declared winner of the country's presidential election, extending his more than 4 decades in power. At 92, Biya, the world's oldest head of state, secured 53.66% of the vote, according to the Constitutional Court. His main challenger, former Minister Chiroma Bakari, came second with 35.2%. At a ceremony in Yaoundé, the council's president, Clement Atangana, proclaimed Biya's victory to the applause from government, officials, and diplomats. Higher Education Minister Jacques Pham Ndongo praised Biya's re-election, calling it proof of the Cameroonian people's maturity and responsibility. With this win, Biya is now expected to govern until 2032, marking 50 years in power. Meanwhile, Djibouti's parliament has voted unanimously to lift the presidential age limit, clearing the way for President Ismail Omar Guelleh to seek a system in 2026. The amendment removes the 75-year age gap that will have barred the 77-year-old leader from running again. Guelleh, who has ruled since 1999, is one of Africa's longest-serving leaders. Rights groups condemned the move, calling it a step toward a life presidency, while officials defended it as necessary for stability in the troubled Horn of Africa. Parliament will confirm the decision in a second vote on November the 2nd. Guelleh won his last election in 2021 with more than 97% of the vote. Professor Killer, I'll start with you.
Well, I think
Sitism.
Sitism, yes, that's the issue. You put it together, and sitism is what comes. Sitism, for our viewers who do not have the knowledge of Reverend Baptist bow tie, is a system where people stay in power and they never want to go. They sit tight, sitism. So here is...
So that is my bow tie.
Well, you start with of the world that allows you to know certain technical terms that if you don't know, if you can't tie those kind of tie, you might not know.
No, you people should get used to this bow tie.
To this bow tie. Well, we're fascinated by it.
There were more patterns.
Especially the ones that cannot tie it. Because I want viewers to know that this is not the one you wear. This is actually the one you tie around your neck. You need to learn how to do that. But the point is, sitism is a situation we have in Africa, and I think it's a value thing. It's a value and vision thing. I think African scholars need to sit down together to devise how they want to deal with this sitism situation. It is either we go for a parliamentary system that allows people to sit down forever, or if we're using the presidential system, because the reason why these things sound odd is twofold. Systematic, because in a presidential system, which would go to an American system, you're not allowed to stay forever. It looks odd when you stay forever. The other reason is that these people who stay forever are not so popular in their country. It's not that they're doing great things and everybody loves them. They don't want to go. They don't want them to go, and that's why they're staying. They're not loved. They rig elections. They're unpopular. So I think African scholars and visionary people need to find a solution for this situation. Maybe we need to create, instead of by parliamentary system, a kind of house of retired or past head of states and past rulers where they'll have their glories and stay there, or move to a parliamentary system. And I also think in terms of value, so those are the scholars, but I think the regional bodies, ECOWAS, African Union, they need to agree on certain values that will not allow individuals to behave in certain ways. And maybe the people in their country itself, they need to learn some sort of rebellion or allergy to sitism like Nigerians tend to have. We've dealt with those kind of situations in the past. There's a peculiar issue of Cameroon because they are our neighbors. And my take is that Nigeria should find its interest in the Cameroon affair and defend that interest. Because what Paul Biya is doing and what the opposition are threatening to do can lead to chaos. And if chaos happens in Cameroon, because we have a physical border from north to south, because we have a cultural interface that goes over a century, because our people trade together, it is in our interest for Cameroon to be stable and peaceful. And I dare say, if we want to be who we ought to be, a neighboring country like Cameroon, we should have some very clear interest in there and defend those interests. Hopefully, that interest will not be to lecture or impose ourselves on Cameroonians, but rather to guide, influence, educate, and support them towards what is right.
Mr. Ologun.
Thank you very much. I'm sure Paul Biya's daughter will be very unhappy now because she actually came out to appeal to the people not to vote for her father. But Paul Biya has perfected the art of remaining in government, and he is not alone in that mode. Like the Djibouti experience you mentioned also, they are amending the laws to throw away the cap of, he's already 77, he wants to remain in power. But my big concern is that these presidents don't act alone. Whether Chief Olusegun Obasanjo denied it or not, there were insinuations that he needed a third term. But he didn't get it. Some people rose up and said, no, you are not going to get it. So what is happening in Africa? That leaders will just say, this is what I want, and they scale through. And you hear them coming to praise. Look at the praise of winning at 92. You see, and it's not as if the economy is vibrant. And let me say this on the purview of leadership. Sitism is a sign of failure. Because if you have developed your environment to the point where you can easily go and enjoy the rest of your life, you will not want to die in office. And can we learn? It's not just all African countries. Look at Nelson Mandela. He was in prison for 27 years, battling for apartheid to be, thrown out of South Africa. And he won that battle. And he had the opportunity of becoming the president. And he did not choose to sit tight. He left that office. So look at Tanzania now, with all John Magufuli did. Tanzania is on fire, post-election crisis. So what exactly is going on in Africa? And that is why sometimes when some foreign powers begin to tell us that they are moving swiftly and hitting and sweetly, we should have a self-reflection. But we wish the Cameroonians the best.
Okay, in Tanzania, Samia Suluhu, whom we once praised, and the CCM, that has been the main political party in power since independence, they want to sit tight and they want to grab the power. And they've been repressing people, they've been committing a lot of atrocities. You are right, it fits into the regular pattern in Africa. Professor Aworawo, your friend, Obia, Cameroon.
The situation in Cameroon is very disturbing. It's very disturbing because 92 years. These are the kind of things that happen, and you see a coup. Ambassador Keshi was drawing attention to that last week, and when that happens, the political system is turned upside down, set back, and if there is a major crisis, neighboring countries also, will be affected, like Nigeria. I agree. I want to take it from where Barrister Ologun stopped. Cameroon didn't always have a constitutional provision that allowed the president to run for life. It was in 2008 that that change took place, and it was Parliament that ratified it. If the Parliament has stood its ground to say no, this is the presidential system, you have to have term limits and all of this we are saying now won't happen. So it's an indictment on the political elites.
The parliamentary system.
Yes, and maybe the people too, because, Pobia, if Pobia had just 2% support, he won't be president. Even if they rigged the election, which is almost certain happened, he will have had like 30% thereabouts, and then that will give him the base to be able to do the rest. Why would such a large number of Cameroonians, maybe up to 30%, want a 92-year-old to continue? Somebody says maturity, somebody says for stability. It's for instability and immaturity. So that is what has to happen. Caesarism, that's another word, sitism, Caesarism. Africans need to embrace democracy as it is. And those who lead will also need to, when somebody is trying to change the whole thing for his own personal destiny, they need to move to stop him. That is what hasn't happened, which needs to happen.
Okay, as to wrap up, just one more subject, and only Professor Aworawo, Professor Killer,
who is not
will be allowed to comment on this. Prince Andrew, he's been stripped of his honors, titles, and entitlements. Just because he brought the monarchy to odium. People have said, look, the British monarchy is trying to protect itself from the threat of republicanism, and that Prince Andrew has to be sacrificed along with Sarah Ferguson, but the daughters Beatrice and Jide, they remain princesses in the succession line. 9th Antwerp, with former Prince Andrew,
Yes.
the man formerly known as Prince Andrew,
now
say
Minister.
ninth in the line of succession. Very briefly.
Well, very briefly, I think, one must recognize the sacrifice of King Charles. He has done the right thing, because that's what most people ask him to do. You have somebody who has abused power. It is not just a crime or the moral issue. The key is that he has abused his position as a prince to do what he ought not to do. He has fallen from the moral standards expected of that role. Hypocritically or not, it doesn't matter. He has brought the crown to disrepute. And his own brother, and we must understand, has had to, though painfully, do what he ought to do. That is what leadership is all about. And, one must commend Prince Charles, and a bit of sympathy, because this thing, it's easy to say it, but let's ask ourselves, how many of us can do that to our own brothers? Unless there's something else behind it. It's a tough decision.
The United Arab Emirates has offered Prince Andrew a palace in Abu Dhabi if he's willing to relocate. But the whole issue is that nobody is above the law, not even the royalty.
Prince, yes, exactly.
Well, I thank you all for joining me on this Live, this Sunday talk show this Sunday. Professor Anthony Killer, Mr. Ologun, and also Professor Aworawo. You've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati from my entire team here in Lagos. It's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next Sunday.